All right, let's talk schools. Probably the number one question I get beyond what neighborhood should I live in is something about Denver area schools. Where are the good schools? Where are the bad schools? What should we avoid? What should we look for? How do we enroll? Do I have to be living in this neighborhood to go to that neighborhood school? Are there any cities I should avoid completely if I'm worried about schools? And I've heard real estate agents aren't allowed to talk about schools. Is that true? Well, I'm going to do my best to answer all those questions and more in this video, because not only have I helped a number of clients work through these things for their families, but my oldest son, Condor, as I affectionately call him, is enrolling in kindergarten in the fall. So we're going through all this stuff now. So I figure it's a good time to make this video. It is a fairly big, complex, somewhat gnarly topic overall when we're talking about Denver area schools, because there's things that have to do with Denver schools that don't apply to other schools. There's a bunch of different school districts, and within those districts, there's school area boundaries that determine who goes where and so on and so forth. Then, of course, even within those districts and boundaries, we're not just talking about, an elementary school, we're talking about middle and high schools and maybe even private schools and all those sorts of things. So this video might be kind of long and maybe even confusing at times, but please bear with me. I do believe that at the end of this, we're going to get a lot of these questions answered, and we're going to hopefully give you a much better bearing on what's going on in terms of Denver area schools. We're not just going to talk about Denver, we're going to talk about the entire surrounding metro. So I got my cup of afternoon coffee and I'm ready to rock. So real quick, in case you don't know, Sam Newman, I'm a Denver area real estate agent, and it's my goal to be your go-to guy for anything real estate in the Denver area, be it the city of Denver or the surrounding metro, or heck, all the way up to the foothills. I have people reach out from this channel all the time. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite type of client to work with. Don't tell the other ones. So if that's you, if there's anything I can help you with, please do not hesitate to reach out. My contact information will be all over the place. So to quickly address that point about whether real estate agents are allowed to discuss schools, because that might be something you may have heard. That's certainly something I've heard. I've had other agents tell me we can't talk about schools. It's kind of like crime. It gets lumped into crime or neighborhood safety statistics. It's something you hear often. It's not something real estate agents can discuss. So in both cases, that's not actually true. And I actually made an entire video talking about whether or not Denver is a safe place to live. But it comes from this concept of steering. So if we're to say, this is a good school or this is a bad school and you should go there or should not go there, that could be considered steering. And steering is something that's illegal and was part of the Fair Housing Act. Obviously something we all want to avoid and something I'm never going to do. But we're not in any way barred from talking about schools or which schools are rated highly or anything like that. I mean, all that information is out there anyway. That's all public info. And there's no reason we can't talk about it. Interestingly, our trade organization, National Association of Realtors, kind of tries to dissuade us from talking about it just because of potential liability. This is true with schools and crime and a number of things. They basically say, hey, don't even say anything that could construed as steering. Just avoid it to protect yourself. And while I appreciate NAR's concern, I'm not worried that that's ever going to happen with what comes out of my mouth. And my main goal is to help the folks watching this channel. That's the whole reason for it. And so I feel pretty comfortable talking about it. So let's talk about it. So the first thing, and this is really the biggest thing to know about schools in the Denver area and Colorado as a whole. Colorado has school choice, a.k.a. open enrollment. What this means is this: when it comes to public schools, K through 12, you are not limited to the school within your district and your specific neighborhood boundary. This is true in Denver, it's true in Arvada, it's true in Montrose, in Vail, in Grand Junction, and everywhere. It is a statewide program. It varies by city, by jurisdiction, but for the most part, like with Denver, for example, you're going to have a neighborhood school. So based on where you live, based on your address, there will be a school kids automatically will get into without really having to do anything. You have to go online and enroll them, but it's super easy, super straightforward, really nothing you actually have to do. So everybody gets that neighborhood school automatically. But what if you don't love that neighborhood school for whatever reason? Well, you're not tied to that school. That's the beauty of school choice. You can go choice in, you can open enroll to any other school of your choice so long as there is space in that school. If the school's full, well, you can't get in, right? It's full. So priority goes to those kids that are living in the neighborhood, they're their neighborhood school. And then if there's still room beyond that, and much of the time, in many cases there is, well, that's when school choice comes into play. Again, it works different in every city, but there are different rounds of school choice, round one being the best chance to get into the schools you want. And it actually is pretty user-friendly, especially in Denver. In Denver, I know you can go in and instead of just saying, this is my number one, this is my only school, this is the school I want to choice into, and then if you don't get into that, you're kind of screwed. Well, there's a tiered ranked system. So you can say, this is my first choice, second choice, third choice. I think you can go up to like 8 choices. It's really an alarmingly user-friendly system as far as something that would be built out through the government. And it's not perfect, but overall, talking to people that have gone through this process, it's overwhelmingly positive in terms of the reviews I've gotten. So that's the big one to keep in mind. School choice, aka open enrollment. And it really takes a lot of the pressure off, I find, for folks moving here or folks who, like me, they're enrolling their kid for the first time. We got to make sure we're in the right area for the right school. Well, yeah, if there's a specific school you want or schools you want, you still want to be close to them, but you don't have to worry so much about being in the district boundary. You'll always get access to your neighborhood school, so you always got that no matter what. But you got a chance to get into a bunch of different schools as well. Okay, so what if you already live here or you're looking to move somewhere and you're trying to figure out what district I'm in? Okay, so let's look at the different school districts and kind of what they are and how they operate. So based on where you live, that's going to determine what district you're in. And like I said, it varies by city, but are the districts, are they drawn on city lines? No. Are they drawn on county lines? Sort of, but not really. It's completely different school districting boundaries throughout the whole state. So basically, if you Google it, if you look at a map for school districts, you're going to come up with something like this. And this is the entire state of Colorado. This is very confusing. And we can sort of zoom in on the Denver metro, but it doesn't help us too much. You can find something like this too, which I found on the state website. This just shows the Denver metro. So this gets us a little closer. And you're seeing Boulder County, Clear Creek County, Douglas County, which is enormous, Jefferson County. Then when we get into the Denver metro, there's Denver, there's Arapahoe County, Cherry Creek 5. What does that mean? There's Adams, Arapahoe. Also very confusing. So what I did here is I actually pulled the state GIS data about the school district boundaries and brought it into Google Earth. And it's going to look like not much to begin with, but we're going to zoom in and it's going to help a little bit. Here we go. I got the borders and labels put on. So basically, yeah, this gives you a better idea. This is Denver, Littleton, Centennial. You're getting your lay of the land here, even as we zoom in. Okay, and these little red lines, which are pretty thin, they're probably going to be hard to see, but like I said, we'll drill in a little bit more. These are the school districts. So in the Denver metro, this is what we're going to be looking at. Like I said, it's not necessarily city or county, but it's school district. So this first one, basically, this is Denver schools. DPS, as it were. This is this big chunk here. You're seeing a little cutout around Glendale. Glendale, technically its own city. Seems like a neighborhood in Denver, but technically its own city. That's part of the Cherry Creek School District, which you've probably heard of. Cherry Creek School District is also down here. It's this whole area that basically encompasses Cherry Hills is part of it, down through Centennial, Dove Valley, and into southeast Aurora, out all the way past Talon's Reach. The Denver Tech Center is part of Cherry Creek School District. The Cherry Creek State Park and Reservoir also part of it. Now, interestingly enough, the Cherry Creek neighborhood, is that part of the Cherry Creek School District? No, it is not. That is in Denver, so that's part of Denver schools, DPS. Very confusing. Cherry Creek School District is one that often gets touted, talked about as a desirable school district to be in. From what I know, I have no reason to refute that or doubt or anything like that. Overall, when people ask me where are the good schools, where are the bad schools, that's where it gets a little hairy to talk about it. But I'll just be honest with you. Overall, there's nothing that's like, oh, the schools in this district are bad. Overall, they're pretty good. There's going to be some higher rated schools in certain districts and lower rated schools in that same district. That's going to be the case across the board. I do think with the Cherry Creek School District, a lot of the time it is name recognition, where we're thinking about that Cherry Creek neighborhood that's considered affluent and very, very nice and fancy. And that does play into it a little bit, but still a fine school district, I am certain. Okay, so we got DPS, which is this big chunk sans Glendale, okay? And that goes all the way down into kind of the Hampton South neighborhood here. And then south of that, Cherry Hills. South of that, all the way over to the southeast part of the metro here, that is the Cherry Creek School District. If we go south of that, that is Douglas County. And I'll have to zoom out to get all that because Douglas County itself is huge. And the Douglas County School District, it goes all the way past Larkspur. It is also huge. It is this whole big chunk here. Past that, we're going into Elizabeth, which is its own school district. That's kind of past our jurisdiction here. We could go do the whole state. We're not going to do that. Okay, so Douglas County is that huge part of the South Metro. And then over to the west side, that's Jefferson County, Jeffco schools over here. That includes Golden, Morrison, Evergreen, many of those foothills communities. But you'll see it also comes all the way into Arvada, Wheat Ridge, Edgewater, and a good chunk of Lakewood, actually all of Lakewood, is in Jeffco schools. That's another big school district. North of that, basically starting in the middle of Broomfield and going to Superior, Louisville, and up to Boulder, Boulder Valley School District. That's going to be within Boulder Schools. If we go into North Glen Thornton, we're in Adams County. Adams 12 is the school district. Then coming down into the metro, it gets a little bit stranger because there's these very small school districts. So Westminster has its own school district. That's not part of Jeffco or Boulder or anything. Westminster Public Schools, that's its own district. You can see it, which it's really just Westminster, which makes sense. And then the North Washington area is Mapleton School District. And I'll be honest with you, I know little to nothing about Mapleton. Over in Commerce City, it's also Adams. It's a different district, so it's Adams County School District 14. And then Central Park is in DPS again. So you'll see Central Park is kind of and even actually Green Valley Ranch, that's still DPS. That's still Denver. And even the airport. So if you live at the airport, you're in the Denver school system. You can see it's all of Denver, then it comes all the way up here through Central Park and Green Valley Ranch, because those are Denver addresses. And then east of Denver, and then south of that, basically, in this whole area over here, and basically encompassing Aurora, that is the Adams-Arapahoe School District, commonly known as Aurora Public Schools, but Adams-Arapahoe District. And all that, gang, that basically gives us the picture of the school districts in the Denver metro. So you got DPS, Cherry Creek 5, but also known as Cherry Creek Schools. You got Douglas County, you got Jeffco, you have Boulder, Westminster's got its own jurisdiction, Mapleton, Adams County, and then Adams-Arapahoe, a.k.a. Aurora. Okay, so who cares? What's the point of all this? Well, basically, it's just based on where you are, that's going to determine your school district, and then your school district, that's going to determine who you work with for all this stuff. So all this school choice stuff I'm talking about, that's who you go to. You don't just go to like Colorado, you go to your school district, just go to their website, follow the prompts on there. I don't need to tell you this. You found me online, but that's it. If you're in Westminster Public Schools, go to Westminster Public Schools, and they will lead you through the process. But that's not it, because you still have your specific district within the district. There are school boundaries within your actual school district. So let's take Denver. Let's take DPS, for example. This is just Denver Public Schools. This is the DPS system. Just look at this. Look at all the different districts that are in there. These are kind of broken up by neighborhood. Not completely, but kind of. You see Park Hill, it's kind of its own district, but even south of that, you have Palmer, Montclair, Lowry, Carson. If you live in the Lowry neighborhood, you might be in one of two districts. If you live in Hilltop, that may be the case. Down here in Hampton South, where I am, you're split between Southmore and Samuels. So knowing which district you're in will determine which actual school, which building, now we're talking, that your kids will actually go. Like I said, remember the beginning, you're gonna have a neighborhood school that they always get into. This right here is gonna determine that. But if you don't want to look at a map and try to blow it up and figure out what's going on, there's a much easier way to do this, because at this point, you're probably just saying, how the heck do I figure out which school my kid would go to? Well, there's a bunch of ways to do that, but I'm going to show you the two kind of easiest as far as I'm concerned. Number one is just Googling the address and then finding it on a home sale platform like Zillow or Redfin or whatever. Actually, I know, real estate agent, but so this is how I do things. I found that actually this is where some of the best information is held about addresses and stuff like that. So for this example, I have Redfin pulled up. It doesn't have to be on the market, right? Your house doesn't have to be for sale. This one's not. This just pulled up. It's some Cherry Creek $7 million condo that I searched before, but I just pulled it up on Redfin. So what you're going to find is because this was listed at one point, and even if it wasn't, but it's going to have all this information about the home. Okay, it's got value trackers as we scroll down. It's got homeowner tools. I'm looking at Redfin. This is one that actually has very good information, but it's going to be similar across a lot of these websites. You have the detailed home information here. You have tax information, HOA information, all this stuff, sale history, MLS sale history, public records, public facts. Keep scrolling down. There will be a spot, and here it is, that says schools. What I like about Redfin's is it tells you the district right away. So you are in this school, this particular address is in Denver County 1 School District, and you can click on it It actually brings you to the DPS website. This is just a DPS website, so that doesn't help that much. But it's telling you, Denver County 1, that's where you are. And then it actually tells you which schools are the neighborhood schools for this address. So there we go. Bromwell Elementary, if you're looking at elementary, Maury Middle, and East High. East High is a beautiful school, by the way, if you've ever seen it. Just the building, it's got this awesome track, it's beautiful. It says here this is powered by greatschools.com. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but there are some websites that I recommend that are really, really easy for digging into these particular schools a little bit more, because I know, wondering about that too. It's like, okay, we're figuring out which schools, but how do I know which schools I want to choice into? How do I know which schools I want to be near? There's a ton of information about that. I'm getting there, I promise you. The other thing you can do, if you're not going to go on Redfin, for example, it's going to depend on the school district, but a lot of them have great school finders straight on their website. So I'm looking at Denver, I'm looking at DPS here, and you basically just enter the address. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a random address in Park Hill. I used to live in Park Hill. I don't anymore. I'm not going to find my house, but let's find this one. 2546 Elm Street. Sure, why not? Okay, we're going to type it in here, 2546 Elm Street, North Elm Street. That's how Denver does it. Okay, that's what it is. Grade. Let's look at kindergarten just for fun because, okay. And then we'll go find and we'll see what we come up with. It's thinking. Look at this. This is actually really helpful. It shows all the surrounding schools. It shows where we are in all the surrounding schools. So here we go. What I love, okay, the first school that pops up on this search results, it says neighborhood school right here. This is that school that you automatically get into. This one in particular is Park Hill School, shows which grades are serviced, and then you can learn more about it by clicking this link. But then also it shows the other surrounding schools that you could choice into if you want. So Stedman Elementary, Hallett Academy, Odyssey School, these are all right there. It shows the distance from the address. And again, you can click on them and learn more. I mean, just looking at this map, this is a super, super helpful tool. I'm actually impressed, Denver, good job. But then beyond that, if we go back, if you just want to search a school to learn more about a school, like look at this Hallett Academy that we just saw, you can pull that up. You don't have to be in the neighborhood. And this tells you, you got the website here, you got the principal's name, all this other stuff. You can do your research. But we're on DPS's website, but you're probably wanting to get into the nitty gritty. Okay, that's great. I know the principal's name, but I want to know if this is actually a school I want to send my kid to or not. And the criteria for that are going to be completely up to you. But a lot of people want to look at ratings. And so there's a couple websites I recommend that are going to get heavy into the ratings and really have a lot of information and data there that hopefully are going to help you make that decision. The first one is called US News and World Reports. And I know when you look at it initially, it kind of looks spammy a little bit, but it's usnews.com. And this is actually a really, really helpful website. It's got a ton of good data. I know many people who have used this site to help determine if they like a school or not. Okay, so this is showing the best high schools in the Denver, Colorado area. That's just kind of what came up. But if I want to search for, I'm searching, look at this. I just searched for Hallett Academy, that same one that we just pulled up on DPS, and here it is. Overview, this is the right one. All we did was type it in the search bar. You can browse, but why not just search? Pre-K through 5th grade. It shows you total enrollment. Okay, it's showing enrollment by grade. And look at all this stuff. There is all of this great information here. It shows test scores, school data, it shows about the district. So this school is actually unranked, so the website doesn't actually give it a ranking. But if you look at their best elementary schools ranking, you can pull it up in here and find the ones that they rank the best. So Parker Core Knowledge Charter School. You see where it ranks, and they give you the ranking factors, and this is where it's kind of interesting. So you can look, maybe math proficiency is very important to you. You can see where this ranks in math proficiency. If it's unranked, like the one we looked at before, you may have to do a little more digging, but a lot of them are going to be ranked, and so that can help with that. Another resource I love for this is greatschools.com. If you're looking for best schools, sorry, greatschools.org. Greatschools.org. That's how you know it's legit. It's got a .org. This website drills down even a little bit deeper, and play with them both, but some people like this one better than the other one. It's totally up to you. But this simply ranks schools. That last one, US News and World Reports, ranks like a lot of different things. But this is just schools, obviously, greatschools.org. So we're just on the Denver page here, but let's look up, I'm going to look up Southmore Elementary School. That's where the aforementioned Condor will be headed in the fall. And look at this. So like right here, it has a summary rating, test score, student progress, equity, and it tells you what they mean basically and tells you where they rank. And then you can look at all these equity rate rankings here, students with disabilities, student demographics, teachers and staff. From the school actually will submit some information, or they're just pulling it from what's out there in the public. So people can actually come on and review these schools. And then it's got information about the neighborhood and the school attendance zone. So check this out. Here's the attendance zone. So basically, if you zoom in here, this shows you the zone where this particular school is the neighborhood school. I will say this is a ton of stuff, and we're kind of going all over the place here. I know this can be really overwhelming, especially with something so important about like where you're going to send your kid to school. I remember having this weird parent moment where I was like, the first thing we did is we enrolled him in daycare, and that was a whole emotional thing because he's not at home anymore. But now it's going from daycare to school. We did a tour of this school he's going to, and it's like a completely different thing. This is school now. It's, daycare, they call it pre-K. It's kind of, but it's not. It's a different thing. This is school. This is like backpacks and hallways and gym and recess and all this stuff. And so you want to make sure that wherever they're spending all this time, wherever they're spending their days, it's the right place for your kid. So beyond all this, what we're talking about here, I know many schools have a lot of great information online with this in mind, where they're attempting to kind of communicate with parents and tell them this is what's great about our school, this is what our school is about, and this is why you should feel comfortable sending your child here. So on the specific school's website, a lot of that time that stuff's going to be widely available. Beyond that, many administrators make themselves available to meet with parents, prospective students, all that stuff, to discuss with you and hopefully help you make the right decision. My recommendation is just go do a tour of the school. Any schools you're thinking about, maybe you're weighing 2 different schools, go tour them. It was super, super helpful for my wife and I when we were trying to figure it out. Hopefully this is helpful. Again, if I can do anything for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Like I said, it is my absolute favorite. And I've done a number of videos, just not about schools, but about best neighborhoods, my favorite neighborhoods to live in. I'm going to link to one of them here in case you want to check it out. Otherwise, I love you for watching, and we will talk soon.